Hello all. In our last class, we have learned mm, the input-output features in R programming. We have learned how to read some input from the screen using your keyboard, and in fact, you know how to print or display those outputs, some outputs using the cut command, or the print command. So basically, to take input, we use the scan command, scan function, or read line or read lines, and to display something, we use cat function or print function. Okay. Now today we will learn how to import data, how to read data from some file, from data file. Data file means those are stored in your laptop memory or your mobile memory or whatever in the hard disk. Okay. So first, let us see a few data types. Generally, mm, like this is one. You see, this is it has some information, some mm, the information about few employees. Okay. So these are the ID 1 to up to 8. These are the names, then their salary, start date, and their department. Okay. So basically, this is the information about the name of the variables that represents these columns. So this is the ID. This is the another variable. So this whole line, this first line, this is called the header of this file. Okay. So that is one. That is a ASCII file. So you can see all the inputs here. So basically, this is separated by some tab. Okay. Now, let's say another file. Suppose this one. This is called a CSV file, comma separated values. So here all the values are separated by some comma, like ID, comma, name, comma, salary. So each entry, so two entries are uh, differentiated by some comma. Okay. Now this is another file format that is called CSV. There are some other file formats like the spreadsheet. One example is Microsoft Excel files, and you know that. So in fact, we can read those Excel files in R programming. So basically, I have so two examples, like this is one simple text file, and this is a text file, and this is this input, that is a CSV file, and there are some other formats also. R can support the file formats like netcdf or a spreadsheet, and some other files also. So anyway, in as we are in the introduction level, so we'll learn about these two things first, and if we mm, have some time, then we can go through the Excel files also. Okay, fine. So to access the data file, first we have to go to that directory where the data is. So first thing to do, set the working directory. So go to session, then working directory. Here I am. So in R, then I'll go to my data is here. So you will not see anything here, but this is the directory I want to set as my working directory. Okay, fine. Then you can see all your files from here. So as I am then in the directory, so you can see all the objects is there. So that this is the list. Fine. The first thing, in fact, you can visualize the data files in the R software. Like simply, if I click here, you can see it here. So ID, name, salary, start date, department, and these are the respective values. Okay. So this little bit haphazard, but it's okay. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 columns. So 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fine. Then consider this one, this input is a CSV file. See, this is the ID and all the values are here. We are separated by comma. Fine. First, I'll try to read this one, and we'll use the command read dot table. Okay, basically this you can consider as a table. So this is the first row that talks about the description of the rest of the things. Okay, so here first thing to write the file name. What is the file name? That is input underscore txt dot txt, or I can rename. So don't be confused with this text and text. This is the part of the name, and this is its extension, the type of the file. And whenever we'll write the file name, that should be within a quote. Then if I simply do that, and I am going to store that in some variable data, do that. Now let's display what is data. Actually, this v1, v2, v3, v4, v5, these names were not there in the data file. In fact, we had this was the header, but unfortunately now we have the header as this one. So in read input, in the read table command, that actually by default read everything, and it consider starting from here everything is data. It consider in that way. So to let the R programming know that I have a header at the beginning, I will write header equals to true. Okay, then see that now there is no v1, v2, v3, and this is the header, and in fact these are the variable names. Now you have everything here. Okay, then I have already read that. Now the question is that what is the format of this, what is the structure of this data? Basically I will write str of data. It says data is a data frame. So whatever I have read and I store that in this variable data, it becomes a data frame. Okay, and it has different entries like is the ID, this is one variable, this is another variable, this is another variable, and you have total 5 variables and 8 observations. Okay, in fact you have 1 to 8, these are the observations, and this is the header. Fine. Now probably you may recall when we learned the data frame, then we talked about something like the factor. That if there is something string, then there is a option that factor or not. So basically when we did that, we mentioned that factorization should be off. So how to do that? I'll write here string as factors equals to false. Okay, now see what is data and str of data. Now what is the difference between this and the earlier one? Let me do that again. If I ignore that, let me write that data 1. Now data 1 str of data where this factorization is off, and data 1 set. Here these are the strings, the name, start date, department, these are the strings, and everywhere there is a factor. Okay, if I want to display the names like cat data, then name 1. That means it should tell you the first entry in this variable Rick. Now if I consider data 1, see that this is the difference. So here I ignored the factorization, but here I have not mentioned anything about the factorization, so strings are factorized and you will not get the actual thing what you need. So that's why in general we will disable this factorization. So our command now becomes something like this. Whenever you have some string in your file and if you want to read that without any factorization, we'll do strings as factors, that is false. Okay, now you have your data in the workspace and you can do whatever you need to do. So basically this is data 1, that is a data frame, and you can do whatever you want. So this is how we read the ASCII file, like something like the txt file or ASC file where there is something like a table. Now we'll read the CSV file and we have the command read.csv. This here I have to write the same thing. File name, what is the file name here? Input.csv. Okay, if I simply do that, let me write data equals to, then what is data? Data equals to this one. And in fact, if you say so for this situation, this read.csv, that actually consider the first line as the header. Just like in read.table, it by default it does not consider the first line as a header, but in read.csv it considers the first line as the header. So that's why this is the header and the data starts from here. Okay, so here when I say CSV, that means the R command know that this is a CSV file and all the entries are by default separated by a comma. Okay, that's why it consider that comma as a separator. Fine. Now if I use this, then if you want, you can write the complete statement like this way: header equals to false. Okay, if there is no header, if there is no header in the data file, then you can write header equals to false. If you do that, then you are forcing our program, that our code, to ignore the first one as the header. That means your data is this one. Now this becomes your data, and it by default creates some header here. Okay, then so, and in fact if I want to ignore the factorization, then I will do as string as factorization as factors, that is false. The same thing as we did in the read.table. Fine. Okay, there is another thing. Suppose in a CSV file, instead of this comma, it is separated by a single space. Okay, then also we can read it. So by default, the separator is comma. By default, it is a comma separated by a comma. But if if you have some CSV file where it is not separated by a comma, by a space, then you have to mention that it is separated by a comma. Generally, we write that as sep equals to, if this is a single space, then I can write space, or if that is separated by a tab, then I write T. Just like for this one, these here everything is separated by tabs. So that's why I said uh, the R programming, the separators are the tab. So I can write what is the data file, input txt txt. So this is actually not a CSV file, but still we can use the CSV file, CSV command. But here you have to mention what is the separator, and here the separator is tab. Let's see data. Yeah, but we have to mention that. Oh, here I mentioned that is false. Header is false. That's why it considers the header as the data. So here I'll do true. Then there is a header. Then data equals to. Okay, fine. Then what else? In fact, if you want the read.table, there also you can read a CSV file. Data read.table, the file name input.csv, comma header equals to true. Then I write that separator equals to comma. Okay, that means basically this is a CSV file, but I am using the read.table because the read.table does not consider comma as separator by default. So that's why I have to mention that this is the separator, and that is comma. If I do that, see that. So read.table also can read a CSV file. Similarly, a read.csv can read a like in a text file where there is no comma. So when you are going beyond its default structure, then you have to mention that what is the separator, whether there is a header or not. Those things you have to mention. Okay, fine. So now you know how to read a CSV file or any text file. I think that is okay. Now there is another option, that is reading Excel file. Actually, I would not go today because it is kind of, I'll consider this as optional for you because you need to install that package, and sometimes people has difficulty in installing that. And as I know that many of you don't have laptops with you, so I'm ignoring that for now. But if you want, you can go through any documentation, or if you want, I can teach that later. Okay. Okay. So today up to this.